Hello and welcome to Daily Politics, reaching you from Trust TV here in Abuja. On this program, we discuss issues around politics, policy, and governance in Nigeria and around the world. I am Suleiman. Today, our focus is on democracy in Libya, 10 years after Muammar Gaddafi. For many decades, Colonel Muammar Gaddafi was the face of Libya. He ruled over it for 42 years. But Gaddafi is now gone, and he's been gone for 10 years. Libya without Gaddafi has not been the same, and the Libyans, with the support of Britain, France, and the United States, and a few other countries removed Gaddafi, they did so in order to enthrone democracy. So far, that has not happened. Instead, Libya has been plunged into civil wars in which thousands of civilians have been killed. The country remains more or less a war zone and a haven for all manner of criminals and criminality. Some people even call it a failed state. Yet, amidst all the chaos, and the painstaking transition appears to be on. Democracy appears to be ongoing. Presidential and parliamentary elections were set to hold today under a United Nations sponsored agreement reached by Libyan political rivals at a meeting in Tunisia in November last year. But on Wednesday, the Election Commission postponed the elections by a month to January 24th. The major candidates include the warlord Khalifa Haftar, the interim Prime Minister Abdul Hamid Biba, and Saif al-Islam Gaddafi, that is the son of the former leader of Libya. Overall, some 98 candidates have registered for the presidential election, and more than 700 candidates are vying for more than 200 parliamentary seats in a country of 7 million people. So we are asking, what does the election mean for peace in Libya? Would the election result in a government accepted by all factions? What does a stable Libya mean for peace in the Sahel region and in Nigeria in particular? Joining me on the program today are Ambassador Suleiman Dahiru, a veteran diplomat and Nigeria's permanent representative at the Nigeria's permanent representative to the United Nations, and ambassador to many countries, including the Sudan. And then, of course, there is Malam Muhammad Kaddam, who is an expert on Middle East affairs and a columnist with Daily Trust. He will be joining us via Skype from Dubai. Welcome to you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, but before we go on, as usual, we'll take a minute to bring you a roundup of politics in the news today. Stay tuned.
The Speaker of the Imo State House of Assembly, Kennedy Ibe, has declared vacant the position of the member representing Ngokpala State constituency, Tochi Okere. The Speaker therefore asked the Independent National Electoral Commission to conduct a by-election to elect a new representative for the state constituency. The Speaker also suspended 3 lawmakers for what he called dereliction of duty. At plenary, the Speaker said the sacking of the member of the House was in line with the House rules and the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. He said that Okere had not attended plenaries up to 1/3 since he was inaugurated as a lawmaker in 2019. Ibe disclosed that the House Register indicated that the sacked lawmaker also attended plenaries 29 times in 2019, 14 times in 2020, and had not attended any plenary in 2021. The Speaker also disclosed that the Parliament has received 2 petitions from his constituency to declare the seat vacant on the basis of non-performance. Ibe also said that the 3 suspended lawmakers failed to attend legislative activities on 2022 budget proposals as submitted to the Assembly by the State Governor, Hope Uzodinma. A social-political group, Osun Shall Rise Again, OSRA, has called for the immediate arrest of former Osun State Governor and Minister of Interior, Rauf Aregbesola, and a former Secretary to the State Government, Moshood Adeoti, for alleged electoral fraud. The group also called on the national leadership of the governing All Progressives Congress to caution the former Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, Lasun Yusuf, and Adeoti for publicly denting the party's image by their recent public outburst. In a statement signed by the chairman and secretary of the group, Saheed Bakari and Laria Keju, respectively, on OSRA, noted that the same set of individuals conspiring against the governor had committed similar atrocities in the past. The Zamfara State Commissioner for Women and Children Affairs, Hajiya Rabi Shankafi, has resigned her appointment to take up another commissionership appointment in Imo State. In an interview with the news agency of Nigeria, NAN, in Gusau, the Zamfara State's capital, she confirmed that she was joining the Governor Hope Uzodinma-led government in Imo State. Daily Trust contacted the Imo State Commissioner for Information and Strategy, Declan Emelumba, who confirmed her appointment by Uzodinma. In a phone interview, the commissioner said the appointment was a reflection of the governor's belief in one Nigeria.
Welcome back. This is Daily Politics, and we're talking about democracy in Libya. We're talking with Ambassador Suleiman Dahiru, who has been a diplomat representing Nigeria in many African and European countries. You're welcome once again, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you. While we expect the second guest to join shortly, he will get him on as soon as he joins. Thank you. So, sir, this Libya is a classic case of how not to do democracy, because 10 years ago they had a leader who, well, he was a dictator, but
yeah,
the situation have gone only from bad to worse. Gaddafi has been removed. Now you have 10 years. Out of this 10 years, they've had 8 years of civil wars, fighting, Or nearly 25,000 people have been killed since that conflict. Is there any possibility that there will be democracy can actually take place in such a conflict environment?
The hope of everybody
Yes.
is to see to the development of democracy in every country. But unfortunately, Libya has not been democratic right from its history. When Colonel Gaddafi toppled King Idris,
Yes.
he introduced his own brand of democracy, where he was virtually everything. In fairness to him, he established schools and colleges for his people to get education.
Okay.
He built houses for them, and these houses were given to them free.
Interesting.
Pocket money was generously given to students and even the ordinary people, perhaps to buy their silence. But unfortunately for Gaddafi, throughout the 42 years he was ruling Libya, he did not brook any opposition.
Okay.
He thought that he was all and all in Libya. And he came up with his green book,
Yes.
which he thought was alternative democracy. But then if we're talking of democracy the way we know it all over the world, that is not democracy.
Okay.
It was a one-man rule whose decisions were final. And therefore, as time went on, people started to question whether that was the situation they should remain in. And then the Arab Spring, which started in Tunisia.
Yes.
And Gaddafi became perhaps the most, or, oh yes, the most major casualty of the Arab Spring. He was caught and killed.
Yes.
And since Libya was not a democracy when Gaddafi was ruling, it went back to civil war. One thing about the Arab countries, not Libya alone, the Arabs are more loyal to their clans and to their tribes before the nation. So, with his death and the vacuum created
by his death,
warring factions started. Warlords came up.
okay.
Each tribe or clan took up arms to defend its own territory. So strictly speaking, Libya has not seen democracy since its existence.
Its entire existence.
Yes.
So does that mean there is no hope for democracy at all? Or does it mean, because they were supposed to hold, as we said in the intro, they were supposed to hold elections today. Unfortunately, that election has now been postponed, to sometime next year. Does it mean that, and the same election that actually been postponed in 2018, 2019, 2020, and then postponed again? So what does that mean?
So, you see, as I was saying, since Libya was never a democratic country, it is now being imposed from outside.
Okay.
And that is the mistake the Western world has been making. You do not impose democracy on people.
This is an important question. I understand the second guest is now live. Okay, so Malam Mukaddam, can you hear us?
Yeah, sure, of course. All along.
Muhammad Kaddam, can you hear us? Okay. Thank you very much for being here with us today. We were just talking about whether or not democracy can survive in a country like Libya. And their elections is something that they have been, postponing since the last 3 years or so. Do you really think that democracy is possible in the Libya of today, given the various factions in that country?
Thank you very much for having me. Well, actually, democracy in a country like Libya can thrive, but not exactly after what happened over the past 1 decade since the overthrow of the Libyan dictator, Muammar Gaddafi. And as Ambassador rightly pointed out, that the country had never seen democracy all along. So you cannot expect democracies to be imposed and expected to thrive or flourish in a vacuum. It needs to be nurtured, it needs to be sustained, it needs to be maintained. The issue is that, as the ambassador rightly pointed out, it has kind of tribal underlying factors that triggered the post-Gaddafi chaos in the country and plunged the country in that free-for-all killing. But at least now there is kind of progress because at least the conflict or confrontation between factions, warring factions before, has now stopped. The issue is now how to go about pursuing democracy as it was envisaged all along. The problem right now is actually not related per se to the factions in the country, because since the beginning of the problem, almost each faction got kind of foreign sponsors in terms of countries representing different interests, and those countries descended on Libya in pursuit of their respective interests and agendas. Countries like France, for example, which has been particularly responsible for the chaos in the country. Countries like Russia, Turkey, Egypt, even Qatar, and of course the United States of America, and of course the NATO as a bloc. These parties, they all maintain factions among the country's political elite, supported them, provided them with arms. And now that the confrontations have stopped, what they're actually doing, and this is actually responsible for the delay we are seeing now in terms of taking the country to democracy, is how to share influence in the post chaos Libya, how to share influence among these parties who are rightly or wrongly considering themselves as stakeholders in the future of the country. You have, for example, France, which sees Libya as it is a sphere of influence, because it played the major role, of course, under NATO to overthrow Gaddafi. So it's think rightly or wrongly, that it got the right to have the kind of the lion's share in the country's political future. You have Russia as well. Russia, even though is unlike Turkey, for example, is not actually attracted by Libyan oil and gas resources, being itself rich in gas and oil, but it was attracted into the country by its agenda to close in on European countries.
We apologize for that technical hitches there. As you can see, today is our very first day of trying to do live transmission on Skype, but we will get the better of it, and we assure you will come out stronger from tomorrow onwards. Thank you. So, Ambassador Suleiman, as we were saying,
yes,
the conflict in Libya is multi-tiered. On the one hand, you have, Western powers who are involved, the United States, Russia, the United Kingdom, France, and all of those. And then you also have Arab countries also, who are also involved deeply. Qatar, Turkey, Egypt, US, and Saudi, even Saudi. All of them have various factions that they are supported. So how does this different power blocks how do they influence what's going on in Russia now?
Yes, I had him talking about what the European countries or NATO did, which was perfectly in order. Now, when NATO decided to move to Libya, ostensibly or purportedly to protect the civilian population. But what did they do? They embarked on mindless bombing of the infrastructure of Libya, destroying virtually everything they could destroy, with the hope that when all was over, they would be given the contract to rebuild what they deliberately destroyed.
So the objective of the war was to destroy, so that when we get, afterwards, we get contracts for reconstruction.
Yes, because Libya is very rich.
Okay.
As for the Arab countries, I think I was in Pakistan then, when there was Arab League meeting where then Crown Prince Abdullah shouted on Gaddafi, and that Gaddafi was behaving like a nuisance. So, strictly speaking, Gaddafi was not popular with the Arab countries.
Okay.
They saw him as an arrogant person who could do whatever he wanted to do. And then, as we know, the Arabs are broken into various tribes and clans. And therefore, Gaddafi was facing problems from all over. Perhaps the only place where Gaddafi did not have problem was sub-Saharan Africa, where he was doling out money to various governments.
But the issue is that Gaddafi is now gone.
He's gone.
Been dead for 10 years, isn't it? The issue is you have different layers of external powers that are interfering with and influencing internal events in Libya at the moment. You have, on the one hand, these Western powers, and then the other Arab powers, all of them, some of them at loggerheads, you know, here and there. With this kind of influence, externally driven, how is Libya ever able to build a democracy? That's
for the fact that the election that was to hold today was put off by another month is a clear indication that there is no serious preparation to hold the election.
okay.
And it is a joke that 98 people will show interest in becoming president of Libya or prime minister of Libya. And then some people who ordinarily should not even throw their hats into the ring, threw their hats. Saif al-Islam Gaddafi wanted to become leader despite conviction for war crimes, even if it is in absentia. Then you have Khalifa Haftar
Yes.
that waged war against Tripoli for many years. To me, in a normal system, such people should have been disqualified. But who will disqualify them?
Actually, they were disqualified, and then the courts reinstated them. But I think this is
yes, it's because of the chaotic situation in the country.
Interesting.
Let's face it, Libya is in chaos.
Let me bring Kadam into the discussion now. Kadam, thank you. So this leads us directly to discussion about the candidates and whether or not this election will lead to peace. You have three major candidates: the current prime minister, you know, and then the son of the late ruler Gaddafi, and then of course the warlord in the eastern part of the country, all of whom are contesting for the same position. What are the chances that if one person wins, the others will accept that he has won, given that even a constitutional framework for the country has not yet been fashioned out?
Well, actually, the issue is it depends on the ability and the willingness of the foreign powers who are influencing things in the country to resolve their differences and share the influence they are struggling about right now. If they agree on the terms of sharing influence in the country, Definitely these people who are contesting, who want to become president of the country or whatever, will definitely accept whatever those parties, I mean those foreign parties, have agreed upon. Because at this time around, these three parties you mentioned and others are all kind of being influenced by the interest of those foreign countries. So this delay is caused by the inability of those foreign powers to come to terms to certain issues with regard to the influence of each country after the election and after the establishment of a substantive government in the country. But for someone like, to say, Saif al-Islam Gaddafi, for example, as the ambassador rightly pointed out, there's issue regarding international criminal court conviction and other things. But I believe all these can be resolved because definitely they cannot afford to have someone out of the system, regardless of whatever he has done during the chaos or whatever, or during the regime of his father. But they cannot afford to have any of these, especially the major players, out of the equation in the political future of the country, because there are a lot of underlying dynamics that are playing under the ground. So if Saif al-Islam Gaddafi is like he's representing the Gaddafi elite faction in the country, which are of course are very established and very powerful, and of course they can undermine whatever political situation is brought later. So definitely, in one way or the other, he should be kind of involved or included in the equation in whatever capacity, regardless. The same thing also with Khalifa Haftar having acquired this huge influence and power in the country, and of course support from major countries like Russia, and in fact even the United States, where he had lived before he came back to Libya. And of course,
But Mr. Edam, what kind of arrangement will this power sharing look like? Because right now you have this situation where Khalifa controls the Libyan House of Representatives, and then someone else controls the government of national accord, and then other people who have authority like Saif al-Gaddafi, they don't control any faction or any government currently, but they have a lot of clout within the political system, as you mentioned earlier. So how can they share power since they don't even have any constitutional arrangement right now? How?
I can't hear you anymore.
Go ahead, we can hear you.
Yeah, okay. Okay, it's okay. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Oh, okay. So we will get back when that one is resolved. So, Ambassador, I throw the same question. What kind of arrangement, are they going to have, given the fact that the country is already factionalized, and each person is more or less, in their own cocoon, controlling their own government, so to speak?
You see, if Libya were a normal country, it would have been quite possible to get people to meet, discuss, and reach an agreement. But unfortunately, it is not a normal country. It has not functioned as a country for quite some time. In fact, the current government in Tripoli was cobbled together for a purpose. The Western powers, they have their own interests. But the losers in all this are the people of Libya. they should sink their differences for the sake of the country.
But they're the same people that thronged onto the streets and removed Gaddafi, that they want freedom, they want democracy.
Yeah, they wanted freedom. What is happening in Libya is like what happened in Sudan.
Okay.
When Southern Sudan was fighting the government in Khartoum for independence, they did not take into account their own internal contradictions, their own internal differences. Immediately, they broke away from Sudan. The internal contradictions started. Then they went into civil war. It may appear to be peaceful, but I doubt if it is really the kind of peace that the people want. So in essence, what I'm saying, when the Libyans united to see the back of Gaddafi, they did not reckon with the fact that after Gaddafi, what next?
Okay.
They didn't. It was just like what happened in Iraq. You got rid of Saddam Hussein. What next?
What next? So I think it's time we take a short break now. When we return, we will continue with the discussion. Let me apologize once again for the technical issues we're having. As I assure you, we'll get better. Thank you. Welcome back. If you are just joining us, this is Daily Politics on Trust TV. And today we're looking at democracy in Libya. You can follow us on all our social media platforms, on Instagram, Facebook, and of course, YouTube. So, Ambassador, as we were saying just before we went on break, you were talking about saying that the Libyans did not reckon with what happens after Gaddafi is out of the way. Well, he's out of the way now, and they're now trying to build a democracy. These Western powers.
Western powers?
Yes, the Western powers. Mostly they act under the UN mission in Libya, isn't it? Are they, what role are they playing? Usually they promote democracy with one hand, and in some cases you see people promoting conflict in the other hand. For example, the Haftar, the Khalifa Haftar, the warlord, he's been sponsored, or at least affiliated to the United States. There is that argument that he's affiliated to the US, to Qatar and these other countries. So in this circumstance, how is democracy going to come out of all this?
It will take time.
Okay.
If democracy eventually finds roots in Libya, because it was never democratic throughout its history.
What about the citizens? What can they do? Besides, about 2.5 million people have collected ballot papers, and voter cards, registered voters, they want to vote in the election. But they are frustrated with this idea of shifting the goalpost. Would that lead to further conflict down the way?
You see, the issue is not whether people will go to vote or not.
Okay.
The issue is whether the results will be acceptable. And the other issue to consider, what are the rules governing the election? Apart from that, the various factions, even if they want power, on what platform? Where are the political parties?
They don't exist. Most of
On
them are,
what platform?
Most of them are independents, yes.
On what platform? And what is their manifesto? In addition, there's no constitution per se. If you cobbled a government in Tripoli, which other warlords, like Khalifa Haftar, is bent on destabilizing? How do you conduct an election and it becomes acceptable? Because these people that want to contest election, they believe in any way. That is the position of politicians all over the world. They go into election believing they will win. If they don't win, they don't want to accept that they have lost.
But that's maybe we move on to other areas of this. The Africa, particularly West Africa, particularly the Sahel region and the Lake Chad region, also in a way are affected by what is going on in Libya. The collapse of the Gaddafi regime meant that small arms and small ammunitions and weapons, it is said that Libya has the world's largest stockpile of ammunitions, some of which find their ways into countries like Nigeria. So how important is the election or the peace process or the stability of Libya? How is it to countries like Nigeria, and Mali, and even the Sudan that you mentioned earlier? And to what extent can this election lead to that stability?
You see, those of us that are looking at it from outside, we may not know the intricacies or some of the underground issues. We are dealing with people who have massive ego. They feel they are right, and they are backed by certain people outside. Now, you conduct an election, a winner emerges. Will others be kind enough to accept that they have lost the election and give their support to the winner of the election? The way I see it, the man in the East, Khalifa Haftar, is bent on becoming the leader of Libya.
By all means.
By all means. The interim prime minister, who should have resigned 3 months to the election, did not resign. So you cannot be an interested party
in an election that you are supervising,
and you think you will be neutral in supervising the election. So my fear is what the outside world, like you mentioned, Russia, Germany, Britain, Turkey, the Arab countries, whether if a person emerges, they will support that person in order to get Libya out of the quagmire it is in.
How would this scenario affect us here in Africa? Because you have countries like Mali, and Chad that are nearer to it, but also Niger and then Nigeria that have also been destabilized to some extent, more or less because Libya has been destabilized. How would that affect us?
No, it's since the demise of Gaddafi. We in West Africa, especially Nigeria, Niger, Chad, Mali, Burkina Faso, have been affected by the inflow of weapons. fueling the crisis we are facing in the various countries. Gaddafi amassed a lot of weapons. The Western world talked him out of the nuclear he was thinking. But the stockpile of arms and ammunition became an issue for us far away from Libya. Until you have a stable government which can control the way and manner these weapons are used or handled, the problem will continue. Like the warlords in Libya, from where are they getting their supplies? Is it from the armory that Gaddafi left behind? Or they are getting supplies from their backers outside? These are issues that have to be taken into consideration. In my opinion, it is very important for Libya to be free from war, to be democratic.
Thank you. So let me bring Malam Kaddam into the discussion now. I understand that we are better with the technology. So can you hear me, sir?
Sure.
Okay, I cannot hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Okay.
I can hear you.
Thank you. Yeah, that's all right. We're doing well. So as I was saying, the foreign powers, particularly the European Union, or those ones in the European Union, their interest may have been initially oil, but now that objective has changed, or at least there is another interest, that is migration. They want to use Libya as the buffer for reducing or even preventing migration of Africans into Europe. How do you see that that objective playing out in this overall scenario that we have today in Libya?
Well, this is exactly why they are more inclined to Khalifa Haftar to become the president, because it's like now they are interested in anyone, no matter who is he, who they think is strong enough to impose authority in the country and to control the immigration into European countries across the Mediterranean Sea. That's why they are thinking that if anyone can do that job for them, they are going to support him. This explains why they seem to support the candidature of Khalifa Haftar. But there are also another dimension to the issue, apart from the issue of immigration. The issue of Libya is oil rich, of course, and European countries, especially France, wants to have a say in the country's oil export and gas and things like that. On the other hand, also there's Turkey, which came to the country purposefully for that, for the country's gas. As we know, Turkey is particularly interested in anything related to gas. That's why that explains its adventures in different countries. So it has invested a lot in Libya, and of course is hell-bent of having its share of influence in the country's political future to secure that interest. There is also another dimension of the conflict, that is between Turkey on the one hand and the Arab countries led by Egypt on the other, which many people don't seem to understand. That is the struggle of Muslim Brotherhood and others. Turkey is hell-bent on seeing that Muslim Brotherhood in the country got more established politically, and if in fact get the political power, so that they can, of course, being Turkey, seeing that it is kind of the sponsor of that movement. Egypt, which is neighboring to Libya, is very concerned about that, having come out of kind of chaos over the past 10 years since the overthrow of Hosni Mubarak and, of course, overthrow of Morsi and the instability that followed in the country. Egypt is considering this as kind of efforts to undermine the relative peace and stability that it has achieved under the current Sisi. So there's kind
All
of.
right, let me bring the ambassador into the discussion now. So the angle about what the European Union powers want in terms of preventing migration from Africa into Europe. Every day you read about ships capsizing in the Mediterranean Sea and all that. Now, the warlord himself, the general, the field marshal, Haftar, he is 78 years old. So he's already in advanced age, you know. And also, is it not an irony to remove one dictator and then seek to replace him with another dictator? What kind of democracy building is that in Libya?
Yeah, that is why I said it has not had the benefit of being governed democratically. This thing is all over Africa. You had Denis Sassou Nguesso, who killed Mario Ngwabe in the 70s, just like Thomas Sankara was killed by Blaise Compaoré. All that they wanted was power for the sake of power. But the Western world, part of their interest in Libya is this issue of migration. I happen to belong to an NGO that we go around NYSC orientation camps to talk to them about migration.
Is it to discourage them or encourage them? Or?
To discourage them.
Okay.
That migration, moving from one part of the country to another country or part of the world to another part of the world is historical. But do it in an organized and legitimate manner.
Okay.
Not that you take a commercial vehicle to go through the desert to Libya and then cross the Mediterranean to Europe. The Europeans were concerned, and they have been pumping money to stem the tide of this migration. And why were the people doing that? Because they felt that they were having a road deal in their own countries. So they were ready to risk traveling through the Sahara Desert and then using dingy to cross to Europe. The European countries are concerned with that. And this is part of the problem, that the death of Gaddafi.
But what does that say about their claims of promoting democracy in Africa? If for a national interest or regional interest, they're willing to promote a clear dictator to take over in Libya. We have just about 1 minute. Just about 1 minute.
I don't like speaking very strongly on issues I believe in, especially in this kind of forum. These people don't support us. They only support themselves. So all that they are doing is to protect their own interests. And we may feel that they are doing us a favor. They are not doing us a favor.
Interesting.
If we are talking of democracy, what of the Arab potentates that the Western world are supporting?
I'm afraid I have to cut you short, because we've come to the end of the program. This is where we draw a curtain for today's program, and we will hope that we'll be here again on Monday. Thank you very much, Ambassador Suleiman Dahiru, for coming over today, and we hope to have you again next time. Thank you, viewers, for staying with us. I am Suleiman. Enjoy the rest of your day. Yep.